Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, my name is Sarah and I'd like to welcome you to day 9 of the Crochet Christmas challenge. Now if you don't know what this challenge is, go ahead and pop into that description where I explained it all in detail because nobody likes a long-winded intro. For day 9 we will be crocheting some jellyfish. These guys are entirely no-sew with the tentacles worked onto the piece as we work the bottom. So no sewing, like I said. Super quick pattern. This should take no longer than half an hour. You could also make these patterns with a size 4 yarn for a mini version, which are of course perfect for stocking stuffers. For this tutorial today, I will be working with a size 6 plushie yarn. I'll be working with this green color here, and I would work with a white, but apparently I'm all out and can't find the remaining bit I had. If you guys know what it's like to shop in person, it's very hard to find this white yarn. So we'll be working with this really light cream and the green. We'll also need a color for eyes if you're going to be sewing your eyes on like I will be doing. Otherwise, you'll need a pair of safety eyes. And you guys can decide which size you want to use when you work on your piece. With your yarn, you'll need a crochet hook. I use a 6mm with size 6 yarn. My general rule of thumb is to use the same size yarn as the hook. So actually, same size hook as the size yarn. So size 6 yarn, 6mm hook, and then you can tweak it to your preference. But it's a good starting place. You also need a pair of scissors, a stitch marker, and a sewing needle. You will also need some stuffing, just like so. To begin this pattern, we're going to begin with our chain 2 method or our magic ring, whichever one will work. They are both interchangeable and will make no difference in your final pattern. For today's video, I will be working with a little trick. I showed this trick in an earlier video, but if you didn't see it, I'll show it to you again. This plushie yarn is very fiddly, so I'll be working with a trick for my chain 2 method and integrating a yarn that is a little bit easier to close into the other yarn, just like so. So this isn't tied up, so we can pull it out later. So chain 2, and then for your first round we will be single crocheting 6. And 6. Now I'm going to continue on with the pattern before closing my magic ring or my chain 2, but you can close it now if you are able. I find with the plush yarn it's much easier to close it on rounds 2 or 3 than that first round. For round 2, we will be increasing in each stitch around for a total of 12 stitches. That's the end of round 2. Now to close your center magic ring or chain 2, just pull on both those tails of that extra yarn to close it, and then try and wiggle the other tail through, just like that. And once your hole is closed, you can just pull out this extra yarn. Always make sure to wiggle it a little bit because that'll help it get past anything, and then come right out, just like that. Now we will move on to our next round. For this round and all the next rounds, we will be placing our stitch marker at the last stitch of each round. For round 3, we will increase and then single crochet into the next stitch, and we'll repeat that 6 times. Now for round 4, we will increase and then single crochet 2, and we'll repeat that 6 times. Once you have completed the 4th round, we will single crochet in each stitch around, and we'll do that for 4 rounds total. Once you have completed your 4 single crochet rounds, for round 8 we will be decreasing and then single crocheting 2, and we'll repeat that 6 times. Once you've finished your decrease round, we will now work in the front loops only. In the next stitch, we will slip stitch, and then in the next front loop, we will single crochet 3. So put 3 single crochets into that same front loop, skip the next stitch, and slip stitch into the next front loop. We're going to repeat this 6 times all the way around. In the next front loop, single crochet 3, skip a stitch, and slip stitch. Once you come all the way back around, you will slip stitch into that previous slip stitch, the very first slip stitch you made. Slip stitch into it, chain 1 and fasten off, leaving a short tail. There we have the body of our jellyfish made. There are a couple things we're going to do before moving on to the next step. First, we will inside out our piece and secure this tail. Whoops, threw my needle. We'll secure this tail by inserting it into any of the loops in the center, pull through, and then going underneath that archway. So I just totally snapped this tail. So real quick, I'm gonna fix this off camera. I can't believe I just did that. I can't. When I said in the beginning of this video, this yarn is finicky, this is what I meant. Although I've never snapped my yarn on camera before. I'm not crying externally. I'm crying internally. There's not really any way to tie this tail, so I'll just be joining this new yarn on if you're curious how to repair such atrocities. Since there's a tail long enough for it not to come undone, I will just be securing this lots and lots of times until the magic ring won't go anywhere. For the sake of this video, I will continue on and I'll judge the strength of it when it's done. Either this will go in my reject bin, or depending on the strength of it, I will still sell it. We'll just see how secure it is when we finish. It is very, very sad though that I popped that on camera. Once you have finished fixing your mistake, hopefully you didn't do what I did. As you can see, it is not going anywhere, thankfully. It should stay and just be just fine. Okay, so now at this point we also have to secure our second tail, and we will not snap this one because what we're going to do is we're going to come from the front towards the back into the next stitch, and then through the center of the previous stitch to create a V and make that edge look a little bit neater. And then bring this tail through past the back loops and just a little bit further down. And you could just drop this tail here. We'll be tying it to the cream yarn when we join it on. Now, the next thing we're going to do before moving on is sew our eyes on. If you're using safety eyes, you can just attach them now between the last two rounds, not counting the front loop only round. To attach your eyes, come underneath that second to last round with a tail fairly short and just stitch over it 3 to 4 times, depending on how big you want your eyes to be. And then scooch on down. I just like to eyeball this. I don't really count, but if you are counting, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 stitches over. 5 to 6 stitches over is usually a good place. And then once you have your eyes made, you can just tie these tails on the inside. Make sure not to tie them too tight so that you don't stretch the doll in any way. Just like so. Once you have your eyes on, we'll move on to the next step, which is the tentacles. So now we'll be working with our secondary color. You can also make this piece in a solid color if that's what you like to do. I like to have the contrast, especially for the video, so you guys can see more clearly what I'm doing. We're going to do this by creating a slip knot onto our hook with a short tail. And we're going to join on where that other end is, so right here, onto one of the back loops. This may be hard to see when you're working with plushy yarn, but usually you can feel it. If you end up gaining or losing a stitch during the round, it's also not that big of a deal. We'll be decreasing in this stitch, so join the next 2 back loops. You can really start wherever you want, wherever's easiest, but that's where I like to start, is the end of that previous round. Now we will chain 10. And we're just going to skip that first chain and increase in each stitch, each chain stitch going down. You'll have a total of 9 increases. Once you've completed all those increases, you will collect that front post of the single crochet and go directly into the next back loop and then single crochet between those 2 loops. What this does is closes that hole that would form between the tentacle and the decrease. You don't have to do this, but I highly recommend you do it, especially when working with plushy yarn. So just regularly single crochet in the next stitch. And then in the next back loop, we will be decreasing. So go ahead and grab the next back loop. There we go. And then the next back loop and decrease those 2 stitches together. Now we will crochet a second tentacle by chaining 10. Skipping that first chain and increasing all the way down, just the same as before. Now we're going to repeat making these tentacles a total of 6 times. We should end off with a regular single crochet when we finish the round. To show you that trick one more time, we will insert our hook into that front post of the single crochet and into the next back loop. And then yarn over, pull through both those loops, yarn over and pull through like a regular single crochet. And now we're going to repeat this process all the way around, and you'll have 6 tentacles when you are complete. When you finish the round, I mean. And there we have our final single crochet, and we've come all the way back around. We have 6 tentacles. Now we will just begin the next round with a single stitch before stuffing. So we're going to do this by decreasing. Now you can either invisible decrease or you can regular decrease depending on how tight your yarn is, or honestly it's just much easier to regularly decrease because we will be decreasing around each tentacle. So it'll leave it up to you, but just decrease 6 times around. But before we continue, we will be securing our tails and stuffing. So taking this tail, insert it through just any part of the single crochet on the other side, and this will just close any gap you may have between the 2 rounds. And then with that tail, we will tie it to our green tail. Remember not to pull too tight to snap your yarn. And then you will have less of a gap and both your tails will be secured. Now at this point, you can stuff your jellyfish. You can also wait, depending on the size of your yarn and how easy it is to get into the body, you can also wait to stuff. I will just be stuffing a little bit and then closing my piece a bit more before stuffing again. As I said before, just decrease 6 times around to finish our final round. Once you've come all the way back around, just slip stitch, chain 1 and fasten off with about a medium tail for sewing that bottom shut. Now at this point, if you didn't finish stuffing like I did, finish stuffing now before finishing the bottom. Once your piece is stuffed, we're going to close the center hole. We're just going to thread our needle and collect all the front loops of our 6 final stitches. Once you've finished closing the hole, just secure the tail by creating an arch, slipping the tail under it and pulling it tight to create a knot. Now weave in this tail 2 to 3 times and then snip that tail, cut it right off, and we will be finished with your very own jellyfish. I really do hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you completed your jellyfish, please let me know down in the comments below. I would love to hear how yours turned out. You can also let me know what colors you used, what size yarn you used. I've heard some people using some glow-in-the-dark yarn for my patterns, which sounds totally epic. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Thanks for joining me on day 9 of the Crochet Christmas Challenge. If you were here for that, I really hope to see you in day 10. Day 10 is going to be really cute. I'm going to crochet it as a something that is gray. So if you want to leave some guesses down below on what day 10 will be. Otherwise, it'll be coming out tomorrow if you're watching this the day it released. If not, I do hope to see you in day 10 anyways, because it's just as cute as these jellyfish. So make sure to like, subscribe, and all that stuff before you run away, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll see you in day 10. Bye!